So, as always, we begin by acknowledging the original stewards of the various lands that we are on. We also acknowledge our ancestors. We acknowledge all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We acknowledge all the elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. So, if you can please do us the honors by introducing yourself to our listeners and viewers and tell us about your amazing work.
Yeah, thank you. It's great to be here. And my name's Sonia. So I'm the co-founder of SparkSource. We develop, finance, and we deliver solar for farms in Ontario and Quebec. And basically, our model is turnkey. So we do the audit, the design, the permitting, and the install work and the monitoring so that the owners of the solar panels, the farmers or food processors, don't have to juggle the paperwork or the contractors. They're busy enough already. And we report the outcomes through monitoring dashboards, and we basically show the production, the savings, and the emissions avoided from installing solar on these existing structures to make the most use of them.
Wow, that is so awesome. Like very needed for the farms. I know they appreciate it very much. Awesome. So
Yeah.
what inspired you to get into this work?
Well, I have a background in environmental sustainability, policy, project management, communications. And at the heart of it, farmers feed our community on already razor thin margins with very unpredictable conditions. For example, the amount that the federal government has to pay farmers for crop insurance, which is when they lose their crops due to weather conditions, has tripled since 2020. So, watching a farm cut its energy bills and be part of the climate solutions by adopting renewable energy and have more energy independence is really motivating for me and for our team. We're inspired by a mix of practical climate action, so putting panels on roofs, and the local prosperity that it creates. So, for hiring local people and savings that stay within the communities that they're generated in. It's this tangible impacts that you can see and measure, which helps to show people the ways we can approach climate solutions that we can see with our own eyes and we can touch and we can understand their impact, rather than sometimes hearing just figures and numbers that are a little bit abstract.
What kind of challenge and barriers have you faced in your work and like how have you overcome them or in the process of overcoming them?
Yeah, so there are barriers kind of at all scales of the work that we are trying to do, and some really large scale barriers that we are trying to address is that competition is really good in markets. And that's what business school taught me. But competition isn't really happening right now in Canada in the food space. Independent and local farmers are trying to survive in the market and stay independent, but the costs of living and farming continue to rise, and this makes it really challenging. So, independent and local farmers are also the source of sustainable food with low carbon emissions that feed my family and yours. Some of the most sustainable food you can buy, saying the most sustainable diet you can have is just by eating within 100 kilometers of wherever you are. If we care about not having our food come from industrial farms that rely on pesticides and monocropping, then we need to help family farms, independent farms reduce their costs and stay in the market and protect what they know how to manage. Um, so that competition aspect has been really challenging. And the other thing I'll say is that this work is about rejecting this misguided idea that financial markets operate separately from the environment. Um, and the environment exists first, and then financial markets exist because the environment exists, kind of not the other way around. If the economy is kept separate, or if we think about the economy as completely different from nature, um, then that's where we run into problems. That's how you get into a place like in those dystopian movies where like everything's a desert and people are living kind of underground. The environment comes first, and then we can live because the environment lives. We need to eat, we need to drink, we need safe air, clean air we need to be able to go outside. And that's why our business is about helping those that are working directly with the environment continue doing that in this harmonious way. So I'm trying to show a better way of using finance to build a future that we want to live in. And this future is when we live where we live more in concert with natural processes that happen around us.
Absolutely. Our body will respond positively to it as well, as you're saying, the 100-mile radius, also eating in season as well. So these things really play a factor in our mind, body, and spirit, And so, I mean, farm work is just it's really, really, really important. If you don't have farmers, how do we eat, right? So we have to have
Yeah.
maximum high quality of food because it's getting really bad to even get quality fruits and vegetables anymore and to
Hmm.
nourish and sustain our bodies. So
Yeah, it's really about
yeah,
that like ecosystem too, right? Like
yeah,
you
that's it.
you want the ecosystem on the farms and you want the farms to exist in a healthy ecosystem where there's not just one big player dominating everything.
Right.
That's why I talk about competition. You need it to make sure that everyone's kind of working together and moving beyond competition, go into a mode of cooperation as well.
That's right. That's right. That's great. So is there anything new developing or anything you want to amplify in your work?
Yeah, we actually just completed another small install for a food bank garden just outside of Ottawa. And so we're going to be, or we installed solar to power um, their basically shed next to their small garden to help them with their power tools that they use to maintain the garden. And so that garden grows food that goes directly to the food bank. They also have a greenhouse that is not electrically powered, but the other electricity on the land that they're using, there's a large array that was previously installed that we're helping them get back up and running to help them start generating that revenue again and start finding more diverse ways to gain revenue for their business, basically.
Amazing, amazing work. All right. So like if I ask you, how do you feel about the future of this especially of this segment of farming and social impact in farming? Where do you see the future going with this?
Yeah, I'm very optimistic and I'm very disciplined about it. It is a challenging market. There are always increasing demands, and everyone's trying to put the costs on you. You're the first point in that chain between growing the food and getting it to someone's table. And so farmers are always facing increasing costs, and we're trying to address that, right? We're trying to lower their energy costs, lower their electricity costs, um, and also give them some energy independence. So if there's any sort of outage, they can still rely on the energy that is created by their system. And if there is a battery as part of that system, then they have a backup there. So SparkSource is moving capital towards these like measurable and local farm outcomes. These energy savings are countable and the community benefits are visible, and we want those benefits to stay in local communities. So the future and the future of our work is about doing basics well. Our focus is on powering more farms now, so installing on more sites across Ontario and Quebec, and then making the financing effortless. So building a straightforward funding offer so farmers can go solar with minimal upfront costs. Um, this takes time, and our approach is that nothing that's worth it takes no time. I mean, you might have trained for like a marathon or tried to learn a language, and you really have to show up every day, and it's not going to happen overnight. People want that silver bullet answer, and I think another part of our team philosophy is that there is no silver bullets, and we just have to keep working every day, be stubbornly certain in our approach to be stubbornly certain in seeing a better future. It's a lot easier to see a future, to see how things are going to go badly than to see how things are going to go well. Um, but that's why we remain optimistic. and discipline to make sure that optimism actually comes to fruition.
That's it. That's it. That's it. You're doing your part, and it's not a one trick pony or a one man show, right? It takes all of us to come together because we all eat. We all need to sustain and nourish our bodies. So whatever what you're doing and others that are doing to help to make this sector more efficient, productive, for community, we all need to get on board, right? Because it's only for the betterment of not only ourselves, but also our generations to come, for sure. So
Yeah.
it's awesome. So if I was to ask you, what does success look like to you? What would you say in a nutshell?
Success to us is thousands of farms and food production sites, so grain drying, abattoirs, generating clean power with fair capital that's been provided to them. And build for us, it's building those farms of the future to show you that there's more than one way to use the sun to grow your vegetables. It's kind of a fun thing I like to say. We want to expand our work also to support more regenerative farming. So working more in concert with the land. That is, the farms that we've so far installed on have been regenerative and organic farms. Um, for farmers, we want to see lower and predictable energy bills, with better returns from the systems that they're installing. And then for investors, we want steady repayments from our diversified projects that have this tangible impact. And for us, we want to see this replicable approach so that we can get to more farms using solar, because we do want to see more clean energy deployed across Canada so we can meet our emissions targets. And that includes standardizing our systems, having fast approvals, and something that any rural region can adopt quickly and easily. That's kind of the offer that we provide. We we make it we're trying to take the load off farmers. We're trying to make this seamless seamless as possible. We don't want volatile markets, food markets, financial markets. We don't want like lots of food one year and missing food the next year, because of climate change. And climate change and like a race to the bottom really creates this volatile environment that makes it really hard to do business. And it makes it really hard to have a prosperous and healthy and positive life because you don't know what's coming next. So we're lucky to live like in this balance of oxygen and carbon in the atmosphere. I don't think a lot of people, maybe this is my environmentalism background coming out a little bit here, but this balance in our atmosphere is what has enabled our lives to live to grow um, the way that they do now. And if we throw that out of whack, that's not going to be good. So our project shows how there are ways to balance with nature and work with nature, and the natural processes that benefit our health. Like you're saying, we want to have healthy food, and that also benefit our communities, and make farming a viable and positive business to be in.
That's right. That's right. Totally. I mean, I think everybody should be very aware and conscious of trees, and we learn that in school. It helps us with
Mhm.
carbon dioxide and oxygen, and I mean, so these are the basic things we learn in school, but I think a lot of us take it for granted. Like air is just there, you know.
Yeah.
It's just there. No, no, there's a lot of complex things that go into you even breathing. So
Yeah.
I think when we get to back to those fundamentals, and let it stick into the brain, because I always talk about it with social impact. Social impact has been around for hundreds of years. I mean, farmers were doing social impact. Where my grandparents, who were farmers, did. I mean, not just farmers. Anybody, would do. If I need a cup of sugar, I go to my neighbor.
Yeah.
In
Yeah.
Africa, there's something called, it takes a village to raise a child. Like, so it's ingrained. It was ingrained in
Yeah.
society, but I think because of all this, you know, new developments of life and the world changing, we're out of touch with those things.
Yeah.
So getting into the social sector like this really hones in on those fundamentals back again. So really appreciate the work that you do, for sure. Um, So wow, Sonia, this has been very powerful. So the last question I have for you is just your closing thoughts and calls to actions at this time.
Yeah, closing thoughts, calls to action. Well, if you run a farm or a food facility, send us a recent power bill. We'll return a free feasibility assessment in a few days. And then if you're a rural organization, we can partner to serve your members, help find more profits in areas that maybe you weren't considering before. And then for impact-minded lenders or community investors, I invite you to join our deployment team and put patient capital to work in our real projects that strengthen communities. So overall, join us in bridging that climate divide in investing in our local food systems and our communities because we have these common values and this Spark Source is about protecting those common values and strengthening them.
Absolutely. My goodness, this has been so amazing. We appreciate what you do in your work. We wish you much more strength to carry on this work. I know it's not easy, but it is hard work and we appreciate it. We will close the way that we began by acknowledging the original stewards of the various lands that we are on. We also acknowledge our ancestors. We acknowledge all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We acknowledge all the elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. So once again, Sonia, thank you so much, and we'll definitely be in touch because we have a lot of collaborators in the farm industry. That I'll make sure that Victor, really keys what the project that you're doing and how we can, amplify your work even more. All right.
That sounds great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate the time to speak with you, and you asked some really great questions. So it's nice to kind of share with someone in the space and talk about those common values. I mean, I honestly, that's really like what this work is about for me. People
That's it.
value these things,
Hmm.
but
Hmm.
sometimes the market doesn't value them in the same way. So it's
That's it.
nice to talk to someone with those shared values.
Oh, likewise. So we'll be in touch. Okay. Thanks again. Have a
All
great
right, have
day.
a nice day. You too.
Okay. Bye bye.